What the hell is he doing out of the wheelchair? Leonard's voice boomed through the laundry room as his briefcase hit the tiled floor with a deafening crack. Jennifer spun around, the scent of detergent clinging to her apron, hands trembling. She hadn't even heard the front door. 6 hours earlier, Jennifer Campbell pressed the start button on the oversized washing machine, steam fogging the window pane beside her. The Lancaster Estates laundry room was as large as her entire childhood apartment. She had worked there nearly 2 years and still hadn't touched every room in the house. Her legs ached. The early signs of arthritis clung to her knees like cement, but she didn't complain. She never complained. The boys' soft humming echoed from the adjacent hallway. Ethan always hummed in patterns. 3 notes, then silence. 3 notes, then silence. It had taken her months to understand that was his way of saying he felt safe. Born with a paralyzing condition that baffled multiple doctors, Ethan had only started moving his arms months ago. Even lifting his fingers had once felt like a miracle. Jennifer had been the only one who noticed the tiny changes, how he twitched his toes during certain songs, how his right leg would press against his chair when she left the room. Leonard never saw it. He was always away, always busy, always buying time with silence. Upstairs in the silent office lined with glass and gold, Leonard James glanced at the time on his Rolex. 5:42 p.m. Late. Again. His driver had sent 3 messages, but he ignored them. He'd been on back-to-back Zoom calls with foreign investors all morning. The merger wasn't closing fast enough. The stocks were volatile. Everything outside his spreadsheets felt like static. He barely noticed the framed photo of his late wife facing down toward the desk. He hadn't moved it. He couldn't. That photo used to haunt him. Her smile, full of light, holding their newborn son with eyes wide and legs lifeless. He pushed the thought away, like he always did. He didn't do grief. He did control. He did logic. He did efficiency. Jennifer folded towels with the kind of precision that came from years of needing everything in order to survive. Her mind drifted to her son, the one she hadn't seen in 5 years, the one nobody here knew about. Suddenly the washer clunked. She frowned, opened the door, and one of Leonard's designer shirts had twisted itself around the drum. She reached in, struggled to dislodge it. That's when she felt it. A presence behind her, movement, shifting air. She turned and gasped. Ethan was standing. Not only that, he was reaching into the machine. His fingers tugged at the shirt, determined, trembling. His knees wobbled, but he didn't fall. Not yet. "Ethan," she whispered. "Baby, what are you doing?" He looked up, beaming. "Helping Mommy." That word. It echoed through her soul like a church bell. But it wasn't just her who heard it. The front door opened, then footsteps, fast, heavy, and then... "What the hell is he doing out of the wheelchair?" Leonard's voice shattered the room. Ethan flinched. The shirt slipped from his hand. Jennifer stepped between them, instinctively shielding the child. Her mouth opened, but no words came. "I said, what the hell is going on?" Leonard's voice cracked the air again, louder this time. His footsteps echoed against the tiled floor as he rushed forward, eyes locked on Ethan's wobbling knees. Jennifer dropped to the boy's side, arms steadying him gently. "It's okay, baby," she murmured, barely able to believe what she was saying. "You did good. You did real good." Ethan looked between them, confused. His lips moved, but the sound didn't come out right. Leonard stared. No words, just silence, and something beneath his breath, barely audible. "He hasn't stood, not since..." He cut himself off. His eyes darted from his son's tiny frame to Jennifer's trembling hands. His jaw clenched. "You touched his meds, didn't you?" Leonard snapped. "What did you give him? What the hell did you do to my son?" Jennifer's mouth dropped open. "I would never..." "Then how do you explain this? He can't stand. You think this is normal? You think this is okay?" Ethan whimpered. His legs buckled. He collapsed onto the linoleum floor with a soft thud. Jennifer caught him before his head hit. The world stopped. The only sound was Ethan's soft breathing and the low whir of the washer behind them. Jennifer didn't speak, Not right away, not until she looked up at Leonard and saw not just rage, but fear. Real, human, fatherly fear. He was trembling. "I didn't do anything to hurt him," she said quietly. "I've only ever tried to love him." "Love him?" Leonard scoffed. "You've been a maid in this house for 2 years. Don't pretend like you know anything about love." That one hit. Jennifer blinked rapidly, gathering Ethan closer. "He called you Mommy," Leonard added. His voice dropped. "Why?" Her fingers brushed Ethan's curls, soft as dandelion fluff. She whispered, "Because someone had to care when you weren't here." Silence. Real silence. Leonard looked at the floor like it might give him answers, but it didn't. And here's the thing. There are moments, just like this one, when a viewer pauses, frozen, staring at the screen, heart racing. Maybe that's you right now. And if it is, don't just watch this story, support it, subscribe. Because behind every scene like this is someone fighting to walk, someone who's been quiet too long. And if stories like Ethan's matter to you, don't walk away without clicking subscribe. It takes a second, but it helps us keep telling the ones no one else will. Back in the scene, Leonard's voice cracked for the first time. He hasn't said a word in months, not a single word. And now he's calling a stranger Mommy? Jennifer shook her head slowly. "I'm not a stranger to him, Mr. James. Not anymore." Ethan reached for her hand. Small fingers curled into hers. Leonard stepped back as if he'd been slapped. He turned, pacing once, twice, gripping his temples. "This isn't real," he muttered. "This can't be real." He looked at his son again, not just at him, but into him. For the first time in years, he didn't see a burden, or a broken body, or a failure that medicine couldn't fix. He saw a boy, his boy, trying, moving, calling someone Mommy, and loving her for it. Leonard stormed out of the laundry room without another word. Jennifer didn't follow. She couldn't. Not with her knees weak, heart rattling like a loose screw inside her chest. She sat beside Ethan, who had already retreated into stillness, eyes glazed, hands fidgeting with the hem of her apron. "It's okay, baby," she whispered, her voice soft as wind. "You did amazing. You did everything right." She kissed the top of his head, blinking back a flood that threatened to spill. Not here, not now. Leonard's footsteps pounded down the hallway. He walked past the polished stair banister, past the untouched piano his wife once played, past the smell of fresh wood polish and money. He made it halfway to his office before turning on his heel and pacing back again. Then stopped, then turned again. He was shaking. He hadn't trembled like this since the morning Ethan was born, the morning the doctor said the words he still couldn't forget. "He'll never walk. Prepare yourselves." Back then, his wife had cried. He had nodded, robotic, and then buried himself in acquisitions, quarterly earnings, and keynote speeches. He didn't do emotion. Emotion cost too much. But now, his son had stood up, moved, spoke, and called someone else Mommy. Jennifer gently lifted Ethan into his wheelchair, buckled the strap, and rolled him into the sunroom, his favorite space. Wide windows, hanging plants, a large mural of whales painted along the back wall. She sat beside him, quiet. What could she say? What should she say? She had crossed a line. Not in action, but in emotion. Somewhere along the way, she stopped being the help and started being home. And now, he knew it. Leonard knew it. And everything was unraveling. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the old photograph, folded edges, slightly faded. A little boy who looked a lot like Ethan, but wasn't. Her own son. Her baby. The one she gave up for adoption after the accident that crushed her pelvis and shattered her life. The one who would have been 5 years old now. The exact age Ethan was. Coincidence? Maybe. But God had strange ways of healing wounds. Leonard poured 2 fingers of bourbon and sat at his desk. He didn't drink often, but today wasn't ordinary. His mind raced. Had he failed as a father? Had he been so caught up in being Leonard James the Empire that he forgot how to be simply Dad? He tried to remember the last time Ethan laughed, or spoke, or looked at him with anything other than wide, searching eyes. Nothing. He remembered business meetings in Tokyo, real estate deals in Dubai, dinners with CEOs who forgot his name minutes after dessert, but not his son. Jennifer stood in the hallway, nervously smoothing her apron. She was going to him. Not because she had to, but because she needed him to know the truth, or at least part of it. Just as she raised her hand to knock, the door opened. Leonard stood there. They locked eyes. He blinked first. "Pack your things," he said flatly. Her breath caught. "I'm not accusing you of anything," he continued. "I just need space." "You think I hurt him?" she asked softly. He looked away. "I don't know what I think. You saw him stand. I saw something I don't understand." His voice cracked at the edges. "And when I don't understand things, I fix them, I replace them. That's what I do." She swallowed hard. "Ethan doesn't need fixing," she said. "He needs seeing." Leonard didn't reply. He stepped back and closed the door. Jennifer folded the last of her clothes in silence. The scent of lavender detergent still clung to the collar of her uniform as she packed it into her small second-hand suitcase. The house was too quiet. Even the birds outside seemed hesitant to sing. Her fingers lingered on a crayon drawing tucked behind her folded jeans, Ethan's latest scribble, a stick figure in a dress, holding hands with another smaller stick figure. Beneath it, in wobbly handwriting, "Mommy plus me." She closed the suitcase. At the same time, Leonard paced the length of his office, phone pressed to his ear. "Reschedule the meeting," he said sharply. "Yes, all of it." He didn't owe anyone an explanation, not even the board. Something felt off. Not just about Jennifer, about himself. For the first time in years, he couldn't hide inside numbers or projections. His mind kept going back to that moment, to Ethan's standing, to Jennifer's trembling voice, to that one word, "Mommy." He rubbed his temples and looked out the window toward the driveway. She'd be gone in minutes, but fate had other plans. A sudden downpour swept over Lancaster like a curtain of grief. Thunder cracked in the distance. The gravel path leading out of the estate turned into a muddy, flooded mess. Jennifer reached the foyer just as the rain began hammering the roof. One of the security guards met her at the door, radio in hand. "Sorry, ma'am, roads are flooding fast. Mr. James said no cars are leaving the property tonight. Power lines down in both directions. County says no movement until morning." Jennifer turned, suitcase in hand, stunned. Behind her, Leonard appeared at the top of the staircase. Their eyes met. She didn't speak. Neither did he. The house just held its breath. That evening, Jennifer sat on the opposite end of the grand living room, across from Leonard. A chessboard sat untouched between them. Neither knew how to start. Not the game, not the conversation. Ethan sat on the floor, slowly pushing his stuffed dinosaur along the carpet. "You staying the night doesn't mean anything," Leonard said quietly. "Didn't ask for it to," Jennifer replied. Silence stretched. Then Ethan spoke. "Movie night?" Jennifer looked at him. "You sure?" He nodded. "Just once. It wasn't a command. It wasn't a meltdown. It was a request. A boy asking for comfort." Leonard blinked. He'd never heard Ethan ask for anything without prompting, never with that much clarity. "I'll set it up," Jennifer said, already moving. Leonard just watched her. An hour later, all three sat together in the cozy den, a Pixar film glowing on the flat screen. Ethan curled up against Jennifer's side, his little head resting on her arm. She absent-mindedly combed his hair with her fingers. Leonard sat in the adjacent armchair, pretending to check emails, but his phone screen stayed off. He was watching her, how she breathed with Ethan, how the boy clung to her like a limb, how calm he was, how safe. He hated that he couldn't provide that, but deep down, he didn't hate her for giving it. "He wasn't always like this," Leonard said suddenly. His voice was soft, almost drowned out by the soundtrack. Jennifer turned to him, surprised. Before his mother died, he was louder, smiled more. I think she knew how to reach him. He stared at the screen, not really watching. "When she passed, something broke in both of us," Jennifer nodded. Grief silences people, sometimes forever, sometimes just long enough. He looked at her then, really looked. For the first time his eyes weren't suspicious or guarded. They were tired, human. Jennifer wanted to say something comforting, but she didn't. Instead, she whispered to Ethan, "Time for bed, baby." Ethan yawned and leaned into her. Leonard stood abruptly. "I'll walk you to the guest room." She blinked. "You don't have to." "I know." And yet, he did. They walked down the hallway side by side, silent, the thunder outside echoing the storm inside them both. Jennifer stood by the window of the guest room, watching raindrops snake down the glass like tears. She hadn't unpacked. Couldn't. Her suitcase sat untouched on the bench. In her hand she held the photo again, the one she never meant to bring into this house. A boy, about 2, big eyes, bright smile. He had her lips, his father's nose, and a birthmark on the right collarbone that she used to kiss every night before they took him away. She pressed the photo to her chest. Behind her, a soft knock. "It's open," she called, clearing her throat. The door creaked open. Leonard stepped inside but didn't fully enter. His gaze flicked to the suitcase, then the photo in her hands. "Can I ask you something personal?" Jennifer didn't turn around. "Depends how personal." "The boy, in that picture, yours?" Silence. Then, "He was. Once." Leonard stepped further in. "You lost him?" She finally faced him. "I gave him away." He said nothing, just looked at her, waiting for more. So she gave it. 5 years ago I was in a car crash, lost everything. My ability to walk for a time, my job, my fiancé, and I had a baby alone, no insurance, no help and no roof, so I made a choice. Gave him to a family who could give him. Her voice broke for the first time. "You ever have to give away the only reason you have left to breathe?" Leonard didn't answer, but something in his jaw relaxed. Jennifer wiped her eyes with the back of her sleeve. "Then I started working here, and Ethan, he reminded me so much of him, the way he hummed, the way he liked quiet." She looked away. "I know I blurred the lines. I know I got too close. But I swear, all I ever gave that boy was love." Leonard exhaled slowly, and he gave it back. They stood there, two people who weren't used to saying too much, suddenly buried in words they never meant to speak. Later that night, Leonard walked past the guest room again. The door was cracked. Inside, he saw Jennifer asleep in the chair beside Ethan's bed, her hand resting on the arm of his wheelchair. Ethan was curled up in the blankets, his hand gripping one of her fingers like it was a lifeline. Leonard should have turned away. But something made him pause. That's when he saw it. On the side table, the photograph, the child, the one from earlier. But now that he saw it clearly, the resemblance to Ethan was undeniable, and his breath caught. Could it be? His heart beat faster, not out of suspicion, out of fear. Because if it was true, if that boy had his blood too, then maybe he had failed in more ways than he thought. The next morning, Jennifer found him sitting in the solarium, coffee growing cold beside him. "Did you see it?" she asked without pretense. "Yes. And I don't know what to do with it." She sat across from him, nerves fraying. "Do you think I planned this?" she asked. "To get close to you, to use your son to fix some hole in me?" "No," he said quietly. "I think you were already broken. Like me." That one sentence was more truth than either had admitted in years. And if you watching right now have made it this far, then maybe you see the truth too. That not every parent is biological. That love doesn't always come from where it's supposed to. And if you feel that, if it hits even a little, don't just scroll, subscribe. Because stories like this don't trend without you. We tell them for the ones who don't have a voice. Don't let this story vanish into the algorithm. Be part of why stories like Ethan's are remembered. Back in the room, Leonard finally stood. "Do you want to know for sure?" he asked. Jennifer blinked. "Know what?" "If the boy you gave away and my son are the same child." Her lips parted. She couldn't breathe, because she hadn't dared to believe it, not until now. The fire crackled low in the den that evening, casting a soft amber glow across the stone walls. Rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like wet earth and old wood. Jennifer sat on the floor with Ethan, stacking blocks and knocking them over again, both of them giggling at the crash like it was the funniest thing in the world. Leonard sat on the couch nearby, watching, quietly, like someone unsure whether they belonged in their own home. "He doesn't laugh like that with me," he said eventually. Jennifer looked up, a block still in her hand. "Do you try?" He hesitated. "I don't know how." She smiled, not mocking but gently. "You don't need instructions, you just need presence." Leonard looked at his son, who had now moved on to stacking crackers and pretending they were coins. "I used to think I needed to fix everything, that if I couldn't fix it, it wasn't worth my time." Jennifer nodded. "Control feels safe until it suffocates you." They sat in silence for a moment, the air soft between them. "What was he like?" Leonard asked. "Your boy, before the adoption." Jennifer looked down, her voice dropping. "Tiny, always cold but strong. He never cried when he fell asleep hungry, just waited." She closed her eyes, remembering. "There was a night I was sleeping in a shelter, holding him on my chest, using my coat as a blanket. He looked up at me and smiled like I'd given him the world. And I had nothing, not even formula." Her voice cracked. "He smiled anyway." Leonard swallowed hard, his fingers laced tightly in his lap. "I wish I could have done more for Ethan's mother. I thought money was enough. I didn't see she was drowning." Jennifer studied him. This version of Leonard, raw, reflective, felt like someone she hadn't met before. "It's not too late," she said softly. "Isn't it? Not for him. Maybe not even for you." Just then, Ethan scooted toward his father, held out a cracker stack like a fragile treasure. Leonard blinked. "Is this for me?" Ethan nodded. "Trade?" the boy asked shyly. Leonard pulled his cufflinks off, placed them in Ethan's hand. "Trade." Jennifer laughed quietly, her first real laugh in days. It filled the room like sunlight. That night, the three of them sat by the fire long after Ethan fell asleep in Jennifer's lap. "You know," Leonard said, breaking the silence, "when I hired you, I didn't think you'd last 2 weeks." Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "Because I was black or because I was quiet?" He smiled, just a little. "Both." She laughed again, a real laugh this time. "I stayed because of him," she said, stroking Ethan's hair. "And maybe I stayed for me too." Leonard watched her, a flicker of something new in his eyes. "You're not just the help anymore, Jennifer." "I never was," she replied, gently but firmly. He nodded, accepting it. And for a moment, there was peace, the kind you don't recognize until it's there. And you're scared it might leave again. And if you're here still listening, still feeling this, ask yourself something. Would you have loved that child? Held him in the night when no one else was watching? Because that's what Jennifer did, with no spotlight, no title, no promise of anything in return. And if her heart moved yours, if her strength reminded you of someone you love, then show it. Subscribe. Not for numbers, for stories like this to keep reaching the people who need them. Don't let Ethan's voice disappear again. You're part of why it matters. In the room, Leonard whispered something. "Would you ever want to know if Ethan really is your son?" Jennifer didn't answer right away. She looked down at the sleeping boy in her lap and whispered back, "I already do." The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. Jennifer walked into the kitchen early to make Ethan's breakfast. Banana slices, oatmeal, and a tiny drizzle of maple syrup, just the way he liked it. She moved with ease now, comforted by the familiarity of this life, even if it wasn't truly hers. Leonard had stayed up late, working in the study, or pretending to. But today the air felt colder. When she entered the den, Leonard was already there, standing beside the fireplace. His posture was stiff, and in his hand, trembling slightly, was the photograph, the one of her son. "You lied to me," he said, his voice low. Jennifer froze. What? He turned. That child. He is Ethan, isn't he? Her throat tightened. Leonard, you said you gave him up. You said you didn't know. But this photo, this proves it. You've known all along. She shook her head, stepping closer. No, I suspected. I didn't know for sure until I met Ethan, until I saw the birthmark. So you moved in, got close, let him call you Mommy. All without telling me? The words cut. I didn't come here to take him from you, she whispered. I came here because I had nowhere else to go. And then I saw him, and I knew. Leonard scoffed. You knew, and you let me sit there watching him form a bond with a stranger. He isn't a stranger to me. You manipulated him. I loved him. That silence after her outburst was deafening. Ethan, who had been quietly coloring on the rug, startled. His crayon rolled away. He flinched. Jennifer lowered her voice instantly. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to. Get out, Leonard said coldly. She blinked. You don't mean that, she whispered. I do. You crossed a line. You don't get to just walk into my life and rewrite it because you're grieving your own mistakes. Jennifer's chest caved inward. You think I don't carry that every single day? Giving him up, not knowing if he'd end up safe? That guilt is tattooed on my soul. Leonard wouldn't look at her. His jaw was tight. His arms folded across his chest like a gate she'd never get through again. You should have told me the moment you suspected. And risk you tearing him away from me before I could even breathe in his presence? She said. Would you have let me stay? That stopped him, but not long enough. Leave, now, before I call security. Jennifer's lips parted, but there was nothing left to say. Ethan looked up at her, confused. Where Mommy go? He asked softly. Jennifer's hand flew to her mouth as tears spilled, hot and blinding. I'm sorry, baby, she whispered. I'm so sorry. She turned, didn't wait for the echo of her footsteps, didn't wait for Leonard to say anything else. She was gone. Leonard stood there alone. The photo still trembled in his hand, but what shook more was him. His son had called someone else Mommy, and now she was gone. But for the first time, Leonard wasn't angry at her. He was angry at himself. Jennifer sat at the edge of a worn motel bed 2 towns over, the suitcase barely unzipped at her feet. The wallpaper peeled, the faucet leaked, the walls were thin. But the silence? That was loudest. She held Ethan's crayon drawing in her lap, the one with the stick figures. Mommy plus me. She had folded it 5 times now, unfolded it, folded it again. Her phone sat untouched on the nightstand. No missed calls, no messages. She hadn't expected one, not really. Still, every time the screen lit up from a spam alert, her chest leapt. How do you grieve a child twice? She laid back on the stiff mattress and stared at the ceiling. The quiet pressed against her lungs. Back at the Lancaster estate, Leonard stood at the nursery door. Ethan sat on the floor, alone, building nothing in particular with his blocks. No humming, no smiling, no laughter, just silence. Movie night, Leonard offered gently. Ethan didn't respond. He walked over and sat beside him, picked up a block, tried to make something, anything. But the boy's hands stayed limp in his lap. Where's Mommy? He asked softly, without looking up. Leonard closed his eyes. The weight of that sentence, 4 tiny words, shattered something ancient inside him. He had built walls around himself for so long, he'd forgotten what it felt like to be needed. And now his son needed someone who wasn't even there, and maybe never would be again. That night, Leonard sat at his desk, the photograph still beside him. But now it had something new beside it, a folded paper. The crayon drawing. He hadn't meant to take it, but Ethan had handed it to him after dinner. One small offering, one unspoken request. Fix it, Ethan had said. Just that. 2 words. And it undid everything. Leonard picked up his phone, opened his contacts, and hovered over Jennifer's name. He stared at the screen for a long time. Backspace. Close the app. Reopen it. Finally. He pressed Jennifer call. Didn't answer at first. She stared at the screen as it buzzed, stunned. It felt surreal. She let it ring once, twice. Then she picked up. "Hello?" Leonard's voice was quiet, almost unsure. "You said something the other night, about love not needing permission." Jennifer closed her eyes. "Yes. I think you were right." There was a pause. "Ethan hasn't spoken since you left," he added. "Not a word." "That boy's heart is smarter than both of ours," she said softly. "He knows how to love without keeping score. He asked me to fix it." Jennifer's voice broke. "And will you?" Leonard didn't answer immediately. Then, "Come home, Jennifer." That word, home, landed like a gift she'd never believed she deserved. "Not as a maid," he added. "Not as staff, just as you." Silence stretched again. "I miss him," she whispered. "He misses you more." "And what about you?" she asked, almost scared to know. Leonard exhaled. "I miss the way he looks at you. Like love is the easiest thing in the world." Her hand trembled against the phone. "Then I'll come." The gates of Lancaster Estate creaked open at exactly 9 a.m. Jennifer stepped out of the cab, the soft autumn breeze tugging at the hem of her coat. She held no bags this time, just a folded crayon drawing in her hand. Same driveway, same white stone mansion. But her heart? Completely different. This time, she didn't feel like help walking into someone else's life. She felt like someone returning to where her heart had taken root. The front door opened before she could knock. Leonard stood there, not in a suit, but in jeans and a grey sweater. No tie, no walls, just him. He didn't say anything at first. He stepped aside, and she walked in. They stood in the foyer, the place where everything fell apart, the place where everything was about to begin again. In the sunroom, Ethan sat in his wheelchair, eyes glued to the window. His fingers twitched at the sight of her. Jennifer knelt. "Hey, baby," she whispered. His face changed, lit up like sunrise. "Mommy came back." She smiled through the tears. "Always, sweetheart, I always will." He leaned forward, wrapping his small arms around her neck. She held him like the world depended on it, because for her, it did. Later that day, Leonard sat across from her at the kitchen table. "There's something I want to show you," he said. He slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside were 2 documents. She pulled out the first, a DNA test. Her hands shook. "It's true," Leonard said gently. "You're his biological mother. It was him all along." Her breath caught. Tears filled her eyes. The second paper was harder to read. Her vision blurred from emotion. "Legal guardianship amendment," she asked. He nodded. "I want you to be his legal mother again, joint. No more silence, no more guessing. You deserve to be in his life, not as an employee, as his mother." Her hand covered her mouth. "Why?" she whispered. "After everything?" Leonard looked down at his coffee. "Because he became someone better the moment you entered his world, and so did I." He looked up again. "You made us human." That night, Ethan sat between them on the couch, his dinosaur in one hand, Jennifer's arm around his shoulder, Leonard's hand gently brushing his curls. The fire flickered. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. And if you're still watching, right here, at the end. Let this part stay with you. Not every mother gives birth in a hospital. Not every father speaks with words. And not every family comes wrapped in a bow. Some families are chosen, some are discovered, some are fought for. So if this story touched you, don't just watch, subscribe. Because for every Ethan out there who's waiting for love to arrive, your click helps us keep telling these stories, and maybe help someone find their own voice too. "Movie night?" Ethan asked, grinning. Jennifer laughed. "Again?" He nodded. "You pick," Leonard said, leaning back. "I want the one where Mommy saves the boy." Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "Which one's that?" Ethan looked up at her with that same bright smile, the one from the drawing. "This one." Leonard watched them. The woman who walked into his home to clean laundry had just cleaned out every corner of his broken soul, and he wasn't going to lose her again. "Jennifer," he said. She turned. "Stay." "I already did," she replied, smiling. The screen fades to black, but the story, it lingers, because this wasn't just about a billionaire or a maid. It was about what happens when love walks in, unexpected, unwanted, and absolutely everything.